cause there's a thing where like the fear of hitting the record button pops up in people's hearts, bro.
In people's hearts, for sure.
It does. It does, bro. Bro, I've felt it.
For real?
I felt it like that. The anxiety of hitting the record button.
No.
Right, bro. I'm telling you, it'd be like
at the beginning, or like
when it became like I have to do it as part of my work.
Okay, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying?
So I don't think they're the same, because one is recreational. When it was recreational, did you feel that fear?
No.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. So right now you're performing. This is your brand. Like it's different. It's not recreational. This is you.
And I only feel it sometimes. I only feel it when it is something like really hardcore work related. Like when we press the record button here, I didn't feel.
Yeah, no, because I mean.
Yeah,
but maybe when maybe you have other guests and stuff like that. That's
maybe
it. Definitely
that'll be a thing, bro. It is weird. 9 times out of 10, I don't think I feel it. If I'm just pressing record and I'm talking about something that I want to talk about or whatever, I don't feel nothing. But if it's something like, oh, maybe I'm not as comfortable, and I'm doing it just because I have to do it, then I'm a little nervous.
That makes sense. Yeah. Kobe said something similar. He was like, when he came to play the game, he was never nervous. It was like, well, why? He said because he knew he did everything possible to prepare for his games. And so it could be something similar. Like, is there something I'm not thinking about? Because I know, we worked alongside each other. It's like at work, this is just the cadence. It is what it is, Whereas something, you got to speak to something that you just had to learn yesterday. That's when maybe those feelings will bubble up a little bit,
That's true. It's true. It's true sometimes, and other times I feel more comfortable if I don't know that much about it. Like if it's something I just learned, I feel like I have a wiggle room for ignorance.
Yeah, 100%.
But if it's something I'm expected to be an expert on,
it
is like I didn't prepare.
How long have you been doing this? 14 years. Tell us about it.
What? Like, I mean, if I really know it and I'm in it every day, then I'm good.
Yeah, sure.
But if it's something like I haven't worked on, haven't touched in a couple months, but I did heavy before, and I'm expected to know everything about it right now with zero prep, a little nervous.
Very different. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
All right. So why don't you tell the people who you are, kind of what you do? This is a tech-themed podcast. We're going to be talking about tech. We're going to be talking about engineering. We're going to be talking about what it feels like to be people in the space. So let's like give folks some context about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm sure it'll be in the title here, but my name is Mason Acie. I am not only an Agilist, or you may formerly know it as a Scrum Master, but I'm also a mentor, a software engineer, Agile coach, for a nonprofit organization, namely Niture. But I also have, my 9 to 5. I work for a major utility in the South called Duke Energy. So been in tech now for, it's crazy now, like 6-7 years.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
That all hit me just right now. Wow.
It's been a minute, bro.
Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, started out, doing a boot camp, and there are some opportunities that, presented itself after that. But, I wasn't as advanced as maybe some of my other classmates. So I had to go back to the drawing board and, learn some other things. And I was able to get mentored up and skilled up to a place in which I eventually was able to, take the jump into the space 5-6 years ago now. So I've been a professional. I've been in IT professionally for the last 6 years now.
Mm-hmm. So we'll let the people know too. Like we know each other.
Yeah. That's
it's like my brother.
Yeah.
So we've been around each other, been working with each other in different capacities. Excited that he's the first guest on the show. If you mentioned that you kind of came up through a boot camp approach.
Mm-hmm.
So like if people watching are interested in doing some sort of boot camp or want to get into tech and they're thinking about different boot camps, is there any advice you would give them?
Yeah. What I found is that the importance on not acting like you know something that you don't know. I find that to be the best skill set whenever I'm learning something new, doing something different. Is it's something that hindered me, early on in my career, but having mentored other people to get into the space now is something that I tell them to be very comfortable with. You feel stupid a lot. You feel stupid. You feel inexperienced. You feel dumb. It's very uncomfortable, but this is the process of learning, and learning to embrace that is something that I would express to anybody. For example, my little brother Seth, he went through a boot camp type situation, and now he is a software engineer at Lowe's, a full stack software engineer at Lowe's, and I've helped him along his way, with whatever curriculum his boot camp was doing. But the point is, I was telling him he's a real cool, maybe mild spirited person. I was letting him know, hey, you're trying to be cool, and that's why you're not getting this. It's okay. You don't know it. That is to be expected. But you harp on it. You find a way to make it relate to real life. And it's some way, somehow, just, it'll just click. It just clicks one day. And so you have to bang your head against the wall, as we call it in the field, until you get it, yeah.
Bro, you said a lot of things right there, bro.
Hey, man. I'm really passionate about it now, because I got the lesson. But, man, early on...
You know how passionate I am about some of those topics, especially not acting like you know, because I've seen tons of folks do it, and I mean, you raised your hand. I wasn't saying nothing about you, bro. I'm saying I've seen the effects of legitimately a lot of people who get in tech, and it's really pride and arrogance is what it boils down to in that specific form. Of course. It is natural to want to impress, to want to be good at what you do. Like, none of those things I think are bad. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a tendency that it really affects your capacity to learn.
Right.
Because you shut off something by saying, I know. Just those two words. Even now when I'm interviewing people and I'm talking to people, I'll give them a question that I don't expect them to know. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to stump them. I just want to see if they say I don't know.
Right.
And how they communicate that. Because if you can't say I don't know, or you beat around the bush, or you're trying to act like you know this or that, and in tech, it becomes extremely obvious when you don't know. Like, immediately. It's not one of the fields where you could just go in and you just, shooting ish with people, and you talking, and you just can talk through it. Like, people verify, and it becomes immediately verifiable if you actually have some idea of what you're talking about.
And if I can speak to that real quick. Yeah. Having been on both sides of it, acting like I know something that I don't really know and very vague with, and instead of saying, I'm not really too sure about that, or I'm not comfortable, exercising, as the principal on the subject or whatever, a subject matter expert. I couldn't have the compassion that some other people already had it, but it just wasn't in my skill set, personality-wise, until I was on the other side. I humbled myself, had to get beat all the way down, and then built all the way back up. It's extremely frustrating from the mentor side, for somebody to act like they know something that they don't, because it's a waste of time and it's a waste of talent. I found that the people who do best in this field are people who are willing to say, oh man, I have no idea. I have no idea. I have zero idea, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to figure it out. So I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Man, it's making me think back, right? Like, for context, folks, like, I've taught boot camps in the past. Mm-hmm. I've participated in boot camps. And here's an interesting question for you, because I've actually changed a little on this question.
Okay.
Do you think that anybody can learn the code and get into tech?
Yes, I do. I think that I think that anybody can learn to do anything. There may be people who are more inclined to playing an instrument, learning how to play this, pick up the sport, whatever, being good at this thing. But I think that anybody with enough time, attention, dedication, hard work, patience, can eventually get there. Do I think that everybody should try to code? Absolutely not.
That's interesting because like I've expressed in the past, I did think anybody could learn to code, get into tech. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. No more. Well, I don't think so anymore. I don't think anybody can. It's like it's a similar question to, can anybody be rich? Like, not everybody can. Just in the world, if everybody was rich, it can't exist.
Right.
There's going to be people that are poor.
If everybody's rich, nobody's rich. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And like, even if everybody does have the capacity to learn some minimal form of coding of some sort, even if it's just as simple as learning Excel or a specific tool to the point where you can programmatically do certain things,
right.
I don't think everybody can learn it in the extent that we serious talking. Mm-hmm. I don't think that everybody can learn it to the extent in which it's sometimes portrayed by boot camps and like tech influencers and things like that. I think if you want to work hard, you definitely can do it.
Yeah.
I think if you put in the effort, just like I think anyone can be reasonably rich or wealthy,
sure,
is if they put in the effort and time. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to. And
I agree.
Not everybody's going to for reasons, I believe, beyond just laziness.
Right.
Because I used to also believe, right, because I would say anybody can learn the code. You remember us having conversations like that?
I do. Yeah.
And I would say if you didn't, you're lazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. I've seen now through coaching many people, right, that it's not always just laziness. Sometimes it 100% is. Sometimes people are just lazy. It irks me.
Yeah.
To my core.
This I know.
To my core. But other times they legitimately don't have the capacity for it. Like they legitimately don't have the capacity to put in a certain level of work, a certain level of grind. They may have a capacity. There's a lot of people who have a capacity that's enough to get the job done, right? But there's also a lot of people that just don't. They don't got it. And that's what surprised me. That's what kind of took me back a little bit. I just coaching a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Best intentions, working hard, and they just don't got it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. I think that is a minority for sure.
Sure.
And if someone comes up to me and is like, how do I get into tech? I assume everybody that comes up to me and asks can and will be successful if they put in the work.
Right.
But there's like a rare few people that I just think don't have the capacity.
Let me push back a little bit on that because it's like, again, like I said before, I think that there are some people who are more inclined, right? Or maybe the transition may be easier, but similar to work ethic or public speaking, some people are very, very shy, very timid, social anxiety, all these other various things. But through a certain means, the hills and the humps they have to jump through may be a lot more extensive than maybe you or maybe the next person. But there are other people who are maybe more towards the middle with it, and I think that it's a spectrum of things. There are some people who are closer to being able to learn code.
So on this spectrum that you're talking about, because I agree it's a spectrum.
Okay.
What point do you have to be on the spectrum to be good enough to get paid for it? Like this is because that's what I'm grading off of. I'm grading off of everybody. Can they get good enough to get paid for this? I think everybody can get good enough to be able to differentiate in their current job.
Sure.
Like I said, if you in a job in an office and you learn a little bit enough about coding to be able to like differentiate yourself and take these Excel spreadsheets and do some cool stuff with data.
Yeah.
Like that's dope. That's amazing. I do think anybody can learn stuff like that, but to be able to do it all day
in, day
get
out.
Paid for it, not burn out.
Nah. But again, I don't see.
That
it is. This is what I'm saying though. If it's a matter of a spectrum, right? There may be people extreme over here, right? This is the best software engineer, to walk the face of the earth. Rob Warmald, is like one of the creators of Angular, and he works for Google. he may be on, like closer to this side, right? Then there's people who don't know what a computer is, like I don't know, but I think again, I still think that people can be upskilled enough. The time that it would take is what the thing I think varies between the various people. Aptitude, humility, and also time, because I think naturally we all fall various places on this scale. But I think if the threshold is the middle to being able to get paid, then you're becoming a professional. There's various stages of how professional we are, right? This side would be the uneducated or ignorant to various aspects of the coding world,
Yeah, and I think it's good we draw this differentiating factor between coding specific jobs like software engineering and other tech adjacent jobs.
True.
Because even a lot of the guys we know, they end up not coding every day. They end up doing agile stuff or doing design stuff, right?
Building robots.
Yeah. Robot automation, different stuff, even though that's still pretty code centric.
Okay.
Job, but yeah, I would
still
categorize that.
Hey, I'm on this side of the spectrum.
It's all right. But I think that if you grind to the point, this is what I think the strategy is that maybe everybody could do, but they're not because they don't have the work capacity for it. I think you get into tech by learning to code initially.
Sure.
Shortest path to entry.
Definitely agree.
You work in that for 1 to 3 years. It's going to be a grind. You're probably not going to enjoy it unless you just love code. And I just happened to accidentally fall into that. That wasn't like something I thought about.
Right.
So you then work in that 1 to 3 years, at least 2. Then you end up in another role, like Scrum Master, Agile, or design, or product management, or whatever, right? There's all these tech adjacent jobs that still make a lot of money.
Sure.
But you're not gonna do your daily, making the money for you and your household just by coding.
Right.
Right. And I'm making that distinction just because the boot camp story that we talked about in the beginning, when you talk about, the sale I hear a lot of boot camp saying is, hey, you get in, you get this job, and you're good, right? Like 90-day boot camp, we help you get a job. 6 months, we help you get a job, and it may help you get a job, Definitely. But you might hate it.
Making good money and resent going to work every single day.
Yes, you might hate it. It might work out. You might hate it. I'm sitting here saying that's okay. Just like talking to you and the guys back then when everybody got in through coding. Everybody. But I'm like, what do you want to do next? Because we can now pivot this into something a lot more spectacular.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's also what I mean when I'm saying not everybody can really has that capacity to code and do it every day. I'm thinking about multiple things at once and kind of combining it because I think that statement is weighted statement. It carries a lot behind it.
So hear what I'm saying. I agree. The only part I think I disagree or just think a little bit differently on is, like, for example, Giles, a great friend of ours, right? He came in through the boot camp, did what he had to do, sample product, everything that he did create his MVP to be able to get on board. He was able to get in, and after a certain point, like immediately when the conversation was to be had of, all right, are you liking this? Where are you at? He's naturally a designer. Like he has a clothing, this is his brand here, Prem Deluxe, and he's been doing this for years, So I think, again, talking about that spectrum, if we change the spectrum to coding and use it for maybe being a designer, I'm not on that spectrum. I'm way over here. Whereas he naturally is way over here. So naturally that jump was easier for him. But if he had to, he would have stayed in coding and eventually, creeped up is all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I'm glad that what needs to happen with folks like that, in my opinion, is you just hope they have good management around them.
Yes.
You hope they have good lead engineers and managers around them that can take them, still value them, because they hired them on to do a different job,
right?
And still try to aid them into the role that best fits them. That's not the case everywhere.
it's not the case as most places, and if when you really think about it, because that is one of the stigmas around coding. I mean, you think about somebody like yourself, Division I football and your upbringing and things like that. You don't fit the mold. You're a social person. Handsome guy. All these other various things.
Handsome guy.
That's my brother though. So if he look good, I look okay. All right. No, but the reality of it is, the typical, 9 to 5 brilliant developer is going off the stigma. Somebody skinny, slim guy, or guy that may have long hair, only watches anime or something like that. Yeah. And really isn't a social person, but I mean can build houses with code, and so I just feel as if there are people, again, varying on the spectrum of natural ability, what they're natural, but everything can be taught, because even that you could have grown up, even though with your genetics, but started coding out very, very early. It just depends on how you're raised. But we were outside playing in the street.
Wasn't doing that. No. People ask all the time, bro. Everybody knows that dude at work or girl at work who is like, oh, when did you start? How'd you get into tech? I was 10 years old, and my dad first bought me this thing.
I took apart my Atari and built. I was like, no.
I soldered together my Nintendo 64 and my Sega Genesis. And you're like, bro, I'm happy for you. Like, I'm not even trying to climb. I learned so much from these people.
That's not me though.
But that's not. That's not
never
me. Never did. No one. As a matter of fact, all of my family was in the trades. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought I was going to be a fireman or, electrician or
roofer.
Yeah, so like in construction.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I never thought that I would be coding. I never had any context of it. I think the only context I had of it when I was younger was my aunt, who was in IT support. She gets in the car. I remember we're in the car one day. We're driving home, and she's like, baby boy, I just got a call from a recruiter. You need to learn database programming. And I'm like, what is database programming? Now I'm like in sophomore in high school. Mm-hmm. I don't know why she's telling me I need to learn database programming. You need to learn database programming. I'm like, what are you talking? Okay, what are you talking about? She's like, I just got a call from a recruiter, and they're like, do you know anything about SQL or database programming at all? She didn't, so she said no. She's like, they're like, man, because we got this job right now. It pays $35 an hour. And, bro, $35 an hour.
Sophomore in high school, it was
when I was a sophomore in high school.
Balling.
And where we grew up, the type of stuff we grew up in was, balling.
Yes.
You is life-changing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's a different story. But then it was very serious. So I'm like, whoa, okay. That was the only thing I heard. And then it went away until I became an adult. When I get into it, or really like close to that kind of 17, 18-year-old range. Bro, you brought it up, so now we're going to talk about it. And as being just a big dude in tech, what are some of the responses that you get? I know it's some of the responses I get. What are some experiences you have, like just dealing with being in the tech world as a large human being?
Oh, first off, the world isn't built for us.
For context, give the people your dimensions.
All right. Probably 6'4", 350 plus.
Mm-hmm. And for context, 6'8", like 400 plus. Yeah.
6'8". But it's funny. I think it's so interesting. A lot of things that I got when I was in elementary school, high school, from the people, the typical nerds, if you want to call it that, right? Just to set the picture, was what I got off the initial meeting of, oh man, hey, what's your name, and everything, and or a lot of time, we're real social people, but I'm normally introducing myself. Hey man, what's up, man? What's your name? I appreciate the way you ran that meeting, or the way you did that demo, or the way you taught this portion of an ACOP or Agile Community of Practice or whatever. I really, really appreciate that. and they're so off put by that. But I think the transition wasn't as difficult maybe for me just because, although I played sports, the jock, but I was also in all like good classes, smart classes. I wasn't going to school. I wasn't in classes 9 times out of 10 with, the peers that were on the football team with me, or on the basketball team, or this team or that team. And so that was it wasn't that big of an adjustment for me, but I feel like it's different me being in their world, and then earning their respect definitely was something that, like, behind the scenes, I guess I was really going for. And once I start to get that validation, it made me feel accepted, because essentially I really am in their world. It's not typically where I would be at.
Yeah.
What do you normally get? I mean, I've seen a little bit, but I think it'd be important to note.
All right. So you said it real nicely. I feel like it was like a very good, politically correct answer.
Working on it.
Really appreciate your flow with words.
Appreciate you.
But bro, people just thought I was stupid up front. Like, that was their assumption. Like, I knew somebody. That was how I got in with the job. And I mean, I think even in interviews, people were surprised a lot when I would be questioned and I would know things. Right. Or I'd be able to do certain things. Different coding interviews and just ability to overall communicate, things like that. I just think that the stereotype is, in simple terms, they think you're dumb up front. Mm-hmm. They don't think you can be large, strong person, enjoy, sports, lifting weights, things like that, and also be intelligent.
Right.
To that degree, right? Because I think for some people, I'm not gonna say all of them, because we talked about the stereotype of the dude who learned when he was like 8, right?
Right.
That's a stereotype. That's not always correct. That there's some incorrect assumptions there, probably, of course. But a lot of those types of folks who maybe are closer to fitting that stereotype than not, would look at someone. I felt this way. Would look at someone like me, and think, that's not fair. Like, that was the vibe I got. Like, it's not fair that.
You're this,
and that was the vibe. That's the vibe I got from some folks. Majority, very cool. Like, as soon as they saw I knew what I was talking about, they're like, oh,
he's one of us.
Yeah, maybe like a little initial surprise. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. But like, we're good.
Right.
Okay,
cool. We can talk.
They know what they're talking about. And then after that, it was cool. That's one of the things I love about tech in general, though. I love that if you really know what you're talking about, you'll be all right.
Another thing I appreciate too, when you do know what you're talking about, but even being able to say, "Oh, I don't really know," and being willing to learn, people are like, "Oh, this guy's the real deal." I've been approached, on both sides of the coin, really speaking, as a subject matter expert on something, but also, hey, I need to learn a little bit more. I'm not that comfortable with being able to maybe teach this portion here and it. Oh man, wow! Let me actually show you a couple things, and so I absolutely agree with that, 100%.
That's crazy, man. I think that the last, because it's been 10 years for me now, which is nuts. 10 years, bro. Doing this tech thing.
Only 10 years?
I think so, because, I'm 29 now. Yeah, 10 years, because when I was 19 is really when I got into it heavy. I got my first job, and I've been doing it ever since, 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Because you started out, because again, I gave an introduction, but do the people have like an introduction about like you? Like, this is the first one.
This is the first one.
So I feel like it'd be important to note, like, what's your title or like, what do you do?
Yeah, so I work for a company called HashiCorp, and they call me a developer advocate. What that is basically like a community-focused software engineer. I interact with the community around our products. I write code around like plugins. I give talks at conferences. I do a bunch of that kind of stuff. I've been in multiple different roles in tech. My background in tech is around software engineering and cloud architecture. Done a lot of cloud-focused stuff, which is how I'm kind of in what I am now, which also put me into that DevOps SRE type space. So I've got a lot of experience on a lot of different types of projects, But I've been at HashiCorp now for longer than I've been, I think, anywhere.
Any other job, yeah. How long
and in tech, that's funny. Let's talk about that because in tech, you don't stay at places long. And I actually think that's a good thing. I recommend it up front. Up front, once you get that first, at least 2 years, right? Get the 2 years, 3 if you really want to be safe, but at least the 2. After that, go where they pay you.
Every 6 months.
You know, get the experience because that's what it was for me. So I was in that job, my first one, let's say a year, right? Mm-hmm. I was in the next job for like 6 months to a year. And then I went to Duke, which was 2 years, which was the longest I had been at that point in time. Mm-hmm. The next job after that was 6 months. And now I've been at Hashi. But Hashi was the role that I really wanted to be in. Mm-hmm. Like the type of role, the thing that I set out, the goals from the beginning that I thought about. The HashiCorp role really blended all those things together. I had used the HashiCorp products a lot. I also wanted to be technical, but I wanted to also learn about business, which is the first role that when I came here to Hashi, I was a solutions engineer, which is like basically like a sales-oriented software engineer type of job where you interact with customers a lot. And that was fun. I liked working with customers a lot. Yep. But I like the role I'm in now, I would say a little bit better currently because it lets me do stuff like this with my personal brand. That's kind of included as part of the job. Right. Like you have to maintain your brand. And then also allows me to code more, which is something that I just happened in my journey to find out that I really do enjoy, the engineering side of it.
We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
You know, because I was coding for Duke for... a couple years.
So look up at the camera.
I'm sorry.
Because your brim covers
I can take
the hat off. You good. I'm just saying. Yeah, it covers your face.
Yeah, so I was coding at Duke for a couple years, and then there was an opportunity that presented itself. I just wanted to learn more about the project management space. I didn't ever see myself jumping over to that. And it was just it was a lucrative opportunity to just jump. So no reason outside of that. Shortly thereafter of jumping into the business side of tech, I missed coding dearly, and we spoke about that in depth. A little bit of soul searching, but I was actually finding myself looking forward to going on LeetCode and doing my own coding challenges and things like that. And so, an opportunity presented itself, and a startup for me to be there to be able to. They gave me some title, but I don't remember because I don't care about the title. But I mentor, and I'm also back in the weeds of coding, which is the best of both worlds. So, man, when I tell you I'm excited every single day now because I have, my business and the business aspect of what I do, but I get to code again, man. I get to code, back in because I'm a full stack. I didn't tell you all. I'm a full stack engineer. So that's database, that's API, orchestration, architecture, and building that out, and also front end. So. In a couple different languages. So I absolutely find out what works for you. But for me, I thought that I want to get away, and I missed it until I was back in it. So, yeah.
I feel it. So, I mean, you brought it up, so we're going to talk about what's your favorite programming language, first one, and then you can talk about a couple of contenders if you have any other ones.
Yeah, so I am a bit so front end wise, Angular. I love first JavaScript. So JavaScript, I don't know anything outside of JavaScript, but I've done React development. I've done Vue. I've done Angular. There's one I'm missing here, but so I've done various flavors of JavaScript. My favorite though is Angular for sure.
So TypeScript.
TypeScript,
yeah,
but it's just
still JavaScript, but
right.
With types, yeah.
But I don't find that there's a big delineation, but right behind, I mean, right behind it is Vue. I really enjoy, learning about Vue. Their state management, the store concept was something new to me, so I learned that first with Vue.
So, bro, you said what your favorite web framework is. But you're saying you only got one favorite language, and that's essentially JavaScript and or TypeScript.
Right. And then, I mean, I do enjoy Java development, but
I don't.
but it was very different. No, because once I understood, you know, once I got into back-end development, it helped me to appreciate all the stuff I don't have to worry about with front-end development. Yeah. You know, so that was the biggest thing. And then, you know, learning how to write database scripts and stuff like that. I don't enjoy that at all.
Yeah, it's funny because I started in SQL Dev. Okay. My first dev role was SQL Dev.
Right.
SQL Data Warehouse Dev. I thought data was what I was going to do. I thought I was going to do data. I thought I was going to go into big data. Really, I just heard that big data devs were making like $75 an hour at the time, and I was like,
I'm interested.
Yes, this guy. Yeah. Choose me.
Two thumbs wants to do that.
Yes. And that was as simple as it was because I was already down that data track. It wasn't until I was in a situation where I had to learn kind of more the full stack that I actually did get into it and not feel like, oh no, I really like to understand how all these pieces fit together. Mm-hmm. I do like building more back-end services, but I've written a lot of front-end code. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, right now, my favorite language is definitely Go. Definitely Go. Yeah. And it's a bias. And it's also, I work at Hashi and all of our products are written in Go, so I get to work with Go a lot.
Shameless plug. Yeah.
Before I came to Hashi, Go was still my favorite language.
Yep.
I was doing a lot of it at the tail end of Duke and in my the next role that I took before Hashi. So Go became useful because, and you know what that came from? I think now that I'm thinking back on it. You remember when I took the ethical hacking course?
Yes, in Colorado.
Yeah. So I took an ethical hacking course. I got certified, and that really made me like C. You know, learning about buffer overflows and all of that fun stuff and using it from an offensive perspective. That whole ethical hacking in and of itself is really fun. I think that's really cool. But when I got into C, I was like, okay, this is interesting, but C is also annoying in some ways. Still think it's good, right? But you just have to really know what you're doing.
Right.
And then I started using Go, and the purpose at the time that they expressed behind Go was to be an iteration on C. Like C++ is an iteration on C.
Right.
But Go was intended not to be an iteration on C++ on C itself, to kind of do the things in a way that they didn't like a lot of things about C++, so they made Go what they wanted it to be, and that story appealed to me.
Right.
Because I also was really enjoying C at the time. So I got into Go, and I've written a lot of Go code since then. Mm-hmm. Hands down my favorite language for backend and the web in general, because you can just make these web services very easily. These small microservices, I love like protobuf. I love all of those things when it comes to backend infrastructure management type tasks. Mm-hmm. But as far as frontend goes, yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't not know JavaScript. You have to know JavaScript. Front-end frameworks, you know I love Vue. I'm like...
Yes, I know.
If I have to write anything on the front end, I'm going to Vue. 100%. There's a couple ones that are coming up that I thought maybe they're cool, but it hasn't been worth trying yet.
Okay.
So, for sure, I get Angular. You know I used to hate Angular. I used to despise Angular because they made me use TypeScript. And at the time, I didn't feel like using TypeScript. I write a decent amount of TypeScript now.
I'm about to say,
but I'm saying that at the time, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Right? ES6 was like just kind of coming out, and JavaScript classes have been released. I just didn't see the point of having the additional overhead of TypeScript on top of. Anyway, I'm fine with TypeScript now. All right. But at the time, I didn't like Angular because they kind of made you use TypeScript. But I see why Angular is valuable for organizations, because Angular has one way of doing everything.
Right.
And if you hire an Angular dev, they're going to know the one way to do that thing. Mm-hmm. Now, in reality, there's probably 3 to 5 ways to do that thing. But Angular says, no, there's one way.
Yeah, there's one way.
So do it this way.
Right.
And frameworks do supply you a lot of that. But even with React or Vue, there's still at least 3 different ways to accomplish the same job a lot of the time. And you have to learn how to make those decisions of when you switch over to a different technique because of the level of scale, how big your application's gotten and how difficult it's become to manage those types of things.
Yep.
I like having that freedom. Like if I'm making a decision up front, if I'm just doing a dumb app myself that I'm building, right? I want to be able to do it a certain way and then build out the complexity as I go.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, that's just me.
I mean, but even, you know, when I started out learning, I think it was like some small React, like boilerplate, you know. I look back at it, man. I'm like, I was struggling bad. 2 weeks to do something I could do in 30 minutes now, you know. But you know that is the process. You know, it's funny though. I think that having done vanilla JavaScript, you know, and started out there and coding challenges and stuff against just vanilla JavaScript, and then you know having these other things that I've used. Angular is just so big and so vast, and you know. I liked the freedom of you. I like the freedom of vanilla JavaScript, but I did like having to figure out how to get something done and finding the one answer. I really do enjoy puzzles, you know, and so.
You know, it wasn't until we wrote Photon. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Sean. Beast.
Jedi Monster.
Like, hands down, I've had 3 mentors in my career that have completely changed my life and career. He's one of them. So it wasn't until we were writing that, and we got to about 10,000 plus lines of code of just pure JavaScript that I actually saw, okay, TypeScript might have been good. Like we had to write that much.
What was the coming to? What was
race conditions? We were running into a lot of situations where we were getting random race conditions and that's things the type system help you avoid.
Yes. These
then we had this troubleshoot, and we spend a few hours troubleshooting to figure out what the problem was.
And then and on top of it, you guys are writing it from the command line, as opposed to writing it in IDE. There's Atom, there's VS Code, whatever the case is.
Yeah, but our VI setups were pretty. Like Sean's VI setup was simple, but I took it and I tried to. But by the time we got to that point, we were close. We were using code completion and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
We still had a lot of those modern features.
I did not know that, man. Yeah. I thought he was vehemently against it. He's like,
he was at first.
It makes you stupid. We're just trying to speed up time.
What's crazy is that he was still so fast.
He's amazing.
That's what was nuts. He was still so fast. It was not even using code completion.
The funniest part is his mentoring. For a time. At least from what I saw, he's have a sit behind him, and he just think out loud as he's going. You can't. There's no note taking. You're just trying to just be in the ether with him.
It's like being face to face with a jet engine,
right?
Just trying to keep your face on your face.
Yeah, drink through a water hose, man.
I remember the first time. Drink through a water hose.
Yeah,
you mean a fire hose?
Fire hose.
I'm sorry, my body got stuck there for a second.
You started talking. I said, "Let me finish this thought."
Okay, no, I get it now. I get it because the water hose, we drink out of water hoses all the time. That's what. Yeah, that's where I was. Okay, fire hose. Yeah. When I first started working with Sean, it's so funny because I saw him in VI, and I was like. I'd never seen it at this point in my career. I'd never seen it. So I was maybe 2.5 years into my career at this point, something like that. I don't know, something like that. 2.5, 3. I don't know.
Okay.
What? We can look at LinkedIn.
I said okay.
No, you look like you don't believe me. I don't know where I was. I have it all on LinkedIn. This is verifiable information.
I just felt like you've been in tech longer than 10 years already.
I don't think I have. I just grinded like crazy for 5 years.
Yes.
That's really what I did. We can get into that, but okay. So started with Rock. That's back in 2014.
8 years ago.
Yeah, it's not close to 10 years, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I
thought it was longer for some reason.
No, bro. Right at the 8 to 10 year mark. I just did stuff before that.
Yeah, 29. I'm thinking. We've been out of high school for 11 years now.
Yeah.
So that's why
I leave a job I think off of here. that I'm not counting. But this was the first like official one that I felt like this was an official job that I had. So yeah, that. So anyway, I'm about. Let's go, 15. Yeah, almost 3 years in because it says 2014. And I started there at 2017. Right. So that's 3 years. 3 years into my career, and I hadn't even seen VI yet. Bro, I'm looking at him. He's doing motions. He's words. The cursor's jumping everywhere. Words are disappearing.
And his mouse not moving.
And his mouse isn't moving at all. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second, stop. What are you using? Timeout. And I think so. Just a note right there. Some people just don't got the audacity. You just take about. Sometimes you just need some audacity, bro.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Don't need too much.
No.
You know, because you could overdo it. But you need a little audacity. Just be like, whoa. What are you doing? Please.
No. Do it again.
Yeah. One more time. Let me see it one more time. And he sure enough, he was like, oh. He was like, this is VI. And I'm like,
V what?
What are you talking about? Vim? VI? Vim? Well, he's like, it's Vim, but I call it VI. Okay, so I'm like, I need to know what that is. What is this? How do I learn? She starts showing me little things, right? So let me do it. So I immediately, at the time, I was using Pluralsight. It was before I really got into Udemy. Bro, Udemy.
The GOAT.
Now Skillshare, though. I'm actually really enjoying
Skillshare?
Yeah, anyway, that's a whole other thing. We can talk about it.
Okay.
So he shows me VI. I get a course in Pluralsight about VI. I'm listening to him. He says it takes a little bit to get up and running. Like, you're going to lose productivity for at least a few days. And I'm like, okay, cool. Eat the few days. So it was that. I got to the point where I was probably just as productive in the terminal, in my VI setup, than I was at VS Code at the time, which I was using. It did take about 3 days. But then I started doing enhancements. Like, there was things I missed. I felt like I was missing from VS Code because I didn't start in VI. Like, he started in VI,
right? From
what I remember him telling me. So he wasn't missing it. He was just in the terminal doing things. He would open files. He was just native in the terminal. He loved it. And I still made sure I learned that skill set because I think it's so valuable. But there was things I missed. Like, I missed the file tree. Right? I was like, where's my... Bro, I love having that on the side right there. That's so nice. So I just found that you could add plugins and add a file tree. He didn't even know plugins existed at the time.
Still,
bro was using native VI. This is, y'all don't understand this, bro. And I don't even know if it's that he didn't know or if he maybe glanced at it and just completely ignored it.
It's not worth my time.
I have no idea. He didn't use any plugins. He went in, he wrote set number, right? For my VI users, you know what this is. So you can see the number lines. And then he set his tab width and his shift stop width. And that was it. He chose a basic color scheme that was part of the basic color schemes. And he went on about his life, bro. And he's like, yeah, I'd like this because anywhere that I go, I can just get up and running really quickly just with this. Nuts. That was the first thing. When I found that plugin, I immediately installed it.
It is a part of my I get a new machine. First thing I do, you're getting you're setting up this up, that up, but my nerd tree, getting my avatar set up, I forgot what we called it for the different colors for the files and things. You remember that? All that. So this is a file, this is a folder, all that. It's the first thing I do. It's one of the first things I do. Absolutely.
Bro, I'm about to show you this real quick. All right, let me try and pull up this cam. It don't want me to do it.
What'd you try and do?
So I have a side cam. It's just because I reconfigured it. So this, bro, not.
Oh, also.
It's I call it a side cam.
Okay.
But no, it's in the streaming software, so I can just go in here. Because usually it would work, but I mess around with the camera. And then I can make it smaller, so I can say, okay, let's use the same source, right? But now with this one, let's do a quick flip. Transform, flip horizontal. All right, now I can make this smaller.
Oh, wow.
Like this. and I can make this one disappear. And then I can bring up the terminal. Boom. All right. So, for the people that don't know what we're talking about, this is my Vim. My Vim setup right now. For one, I'm using NVim. So I don't know if you NeoVim.
Nope.
And I have an alias for my NVim config. You can see my config right now is 317 lines long.
Love it.
Okay. His config was like that long, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe like here.
Yeah.
And he probably he didn't even have a couple of options that I haven't. I have it to where I can use my mouse and Vim, like I can click around and stuff if I really want to, like all that stuff. He didn't have any of that. Okay. And when we're talking about the file tree, like this is what I wanted.
Yes.
Right? Where I could go in and actually look around and look at my files and see what was going on. Because I started in VS Code, I couldn't just give that up.
Mm-hmm.
He would just go in and type E and then read different files as he was going in, bro. He would literally do everything from here.
I do remember.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And so I learned that because I was like, I just got to learn how he's doing it. Whatever he's doing, I got to learn how to do it that way. Because he was moving so fast, bro. So fast. Even just how he would edit stuff, like little stuff like JSON or add certain things. VI just was elite in being able to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
fast.
Bro, so fast. So we'll put the main cam back up.
Okay.
There you go. Mm-hmm. So when I saw it, I gotta learn it. I gotta do it.
Have to.
Did it. And I think he even told me that he was like, you made me confident in this. You remember those times? He was like, when you said, no, this is the thing. Mm-hmm. Like, even when we had different boot camps, I'm like, they need to learn this.
Yes.
Because even if they don't use it in the future, it gives you such a leg up on being. If I SSH anywhere, if you only know an IDE, it's over for you.
You're cooked.
It's done. Mm-hmm. Even in stuff like ethical hacking, things like that, if you're in the servers, you want to do anything, you want to edit text, yeah, there's other ones that maybe people like Nano, etc. Mm-hmm. But it gives you superpowers. It's nuts. You just look crazy in the command line doing stuff. So that was amazing. That was like really a huge thing for me, and I still use it. This is my exclusive editor to this day. And it's nice because if I do have to jump into VS Code or do something there, or I just want to see how it's looking and check it out, there's always a VI mode.
Always.
In all of them. Mm-hmm. Even if I'm doing like iOS development.
Integrate it into these IDs?
Yeah, like it's just a plugin that you just tap, plug in, and now all my key bindings are there for the most part, give or take like 5%.
Okay.
So I can still do all my motions. I can still delete and manipulate text like how I'm used to. Sure. So if I need to collaborate with anyone, it's not a big deal. Yeah. But yeah, it's a whole thing, bro. Do you remember the VI days?
100%. I remember Vargant.
My goodness. Goodness. Vargant.
It's just a joke for those techie people out there that, it's Vagrant. But there was a new dev who now works at Microsoft, who we came up with, and he was asking about for some instructions, and he said, "Yeah, so what's that Vargant again?" Vargant.
It wasn't just he said it one time. Okay, it wasn't just a one. If it was a one-time thing, we're letting it go, bro. We're letting it go.
He said it so many times.
It became a joke because of how many times he said Vargant.
Yeah.
Versus Vagrant.
Vagrant.
For context, for the boot camp, we're using Vagrant to spin up development environments for people so that they didn't have to configure everything themselves.
Yeah.
So we had this instruction for how you set up the environment. Mm-hmm. And he said, I keep typing in Vargant. And the thing, he was actually typing in Vargant.
VAR.
Instead of Vagrant. And when I tell you, like, this would be a conversation. He'd be like, I'm typing in Vargant. I'm like, I know you're supposed to type in Vagrant. And I spelt it like Vagrant. Vagrant. And he was like, okay. And I literally watched him type Vargant again.
And that's when I think the monster started to like be born of everybody can't code.
At that point, I still honestly believed it. I did. I thought that it did tell me the dramatic difference in skill level that I didn't realize before. Mm-hmm. It showed me that, but I still believe that he could learn to code. Sure. That he'd get into it. He just needed more time, right? And I think that is still the case. I mean, like you said, he works in more so. He's in more so like I think a support role, but he's still in tech. He's still doing his thing. Shout outs to him. He's doing great. Yep. And I think that is a story that's powerful. Even if you, let's say you're not good at coding, that's really what I want to get. If you're not good at coding, that's okay.
There's room for you.
Get good enough. Yeah. Get good enough to be able to get into a job. Mm-hmm. And even if it's something you can't do at all, there's still something tech adjacent that you can do, and you can make good money, because I think that that's really what folks' goal is, to just make more money than what they're making now.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're getting close to time, but just like to wrap it up, from a money standpoint, what have you seen, and what would you tell people is something realistic that they can hope for a progression in industry, money-wise?
Yeah, coming in, it's not. I mean, it just depends on how much work you put in off. We call it doing the grind. It depends on how deep into that or what you focus on. You can be vast, or you can be try to be a subject matter expert or something. But starting out very green, I've seen people come in, $50 an hour or so, which is good. But then I've also seen people coming in at a salaried role, being able to express their technical aptitude and making $200,000 a year immediately, But of course that's more on the misnomer or the red herring. But
I haven't seen people doing that immediately, unless you're on the West Coast and you've had internships.
Okay, we're not talking about internships and stuff like that.
No, I'm talking about like realistically, like you get in a role like going along the lines of the boot camp role again.
Yeah,
like I'd say $50 isn't what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. If you are seeing it, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Like what I end up seeing is you come in after a boot camp or something like that, making $25 to $35 an hour. Usually $30 to $35.
What's that about a year? I guess is
about what's that, like 60?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sorry.
25 is 50.
Okay, that's why I didn't know what I was thinking about. But
I think 30 is 60, so 35 probably 65.
Yeah.
So you come in that range, like 50 to 65K in the beginning, leaving a boot camp.
I said $50 an hour.
You said $50 an hour, bro. I'm like,
I said, bro, I'm thinking of 50. Hey,
that's a lot of money, bro.
Hey, I'm like, what did I say?
That's good money.
Hey, I'm listening to you. I'm like, nah.
But real talk, 50. Within a year or two,
you definitely
can hit that.
Yeah,
like your next gig should be $45 an hour, right? Then you get another couple of years. So let's say you're 4 years in now, you should be in that 50 plus range. If you're 4 years deep and you're not at 50 plus an hour, then, reevaluate what you're doing and where you're at, and maybe just get more experience interviewing and things like that. Gauge the economy in your area type of thing. But a lot of these jobs are remote anyway, so I would just practice interviewing and get good at interviewing, because it's a skill set in and of itself.
You say it all the time. Hey, just interview just to interview. Have no intention on leaving.
Yeah, just interview to gain the skills of interviewing, to understand what folks are looking for, to understand your appeal on the market, right? Don't lie to folks. Be honest to folks. Tell them you're happy where they're at. But once you get that 2 years experience, you'll have recruiters reaching out to you a lot
every day,
all the time. So take the interesting ones. Once you start getting a lot of them, and do them. Interview. See how you compare.
Yeah,
that would be my recommendation. Once you get to that 4-year mark, now it's just you making moves, because you can stay at that $50 an hour depending on what you're doing for a while, but you could work your way up, like especially if you're contracting. Like you could hit that $50 an hour range in the full-time space and contracting, either or. But especially if you're contracting and also full-time, I say you can get to the $75 an hour range at that point if you're aggressive. 75, I think, is like 150. I have to check my math though.
Okay, let's check. 75 times 40 times 52. 150.
Yeah, 150, 156. Mm-hmm. So you can get to around there for sure. In a lot of different types of roles, not just coding roles. Mm-hmm. You can get there in the agile roles. You can get there in a lot of different ways. That's what I would shoot for, and based on geography too. Like we're on the East Coast, right? Not in New York. We're based in the Carolinas. So depending on where you are, that pay will go up or down. Mm-hmm. And whether or not you're the top of your field, which requires a different level of effort and work, is also based on where you'll get paid. Mm-hmm. So on the East Coast, I think outside of New York, you can definitely get paid higher in New York. You can get to that $200,000 to $300,000 range at the top ish of your craft. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about just with like stock options and everything too. Like you can get there with the stock options and things too, especially in startups or things or like the bigger tech companies, for sure. But let's just talk about base K. I think you can get to that 2 space for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even on this, and a lot of people don't know that. I was having a conversation with somebody. They didn't know that, and they're getting paid what they're getting paid, right? And I'm talking to them like, no, like, look, understand. You got to do the research and understand what you can be paid,
right?
And then put yourself in positions to get that money. Mm-hmm. So that's what I've seen monetarily. Anything you want to change up or?
Oh no! When I said 50, I'm thinking 50,000, 60. 50, okay. Yeah, and then you said, what did I say?
50 an hour.
I said 50 hour. No, I was wrong. No, but you can come out definitely being able to make a living for yourself and take care of yourself, get a couple things, take care of a small family, whatever the case is. But you definitely want to grow, because it'll definitely grow in there too. And I think the only thing I would say, a lot of people only think you can come in coding, but now tech sales, you do not have to be a technical person to be in tech sales. I think it's absolutely something you want to.
The jobs are a little bit more harder because it's not as technical.
Right.
Like being technical first helps you get your foot in the door in those jobs.
Right.
But for sure, you don't have to be. But then you really have to capitalize on that whole knowing people and networking thing.
Have to.
Like, that's not... You have to do one or the other. You either have to differentiate yourself with your knowledge and capabilities, or you have to differentiate yourself with your ability to network and get to know a lot of people and build solid relationships. Mm-hmm. And the strongest people do both, I think.
It's a skill set for sure. Yeah. But that's the only thing I was going to say. That there are multiple ways in. I agree with you. I think the shortest barrier to entry is figuring out how to do something behind a keyboard, coding, and then once you get in, you can go to the project development space, product owner space, agile space, design space, robotic space.
What's that old proverb? A man skilled at his work will sit before kings.
That's what it.
Something like that.
All right now.
Yeah. Hey, man.
All right.
Hey, hey. I like that one.
Hey.
All right, y'all. We appreciate it. Welcome to episode 1. We'll be back with another episode up here soon. And peace out.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, man.